Hey, welcome everyone. Thank you all for coming to the afternoon session. I know after lunch and it's pretty long session, it's a technical deep dive, so admire your patience and bravery in coming up here. So today, let me first start off by introducing myself. I'm Shailesh and I'm a program manager with Dynamics marketing team. And I help customers implement Dynamics marketing as well as feedback the scenarios into the roadmap. I've been with Microsoft for around 4 years. I was previously with Bing Ads, and I have search advertising background and moving into digital marketing. So this is a brief background on myself. Today I'm going to cover Dynamics marketing as a platform, and I hope you are familiar with the Dynamics marketing in terms of overview and what it covers. This session would focus on how we extend Dynamics marketing and how we can leverage it in the ecosystem with other external systems in a marketing context. For Dynamics marketing, these are the 4 pillars on which we go forward as a platform in terms of extensibility and opening up for integration with rest of the system. Why do we need this kind of integration piece? Why do we need it to coexist? The key lies in the adoption. Now, many of the marketing departments are already using certain tools. They have rich set of data that already exist. You might have tools that are using, you might have some offline databases. It can be contacts, it can be different business data that you want to use for marketing. All of these act as an impediment to adopting a new system, which is Dynamics marketing. That's one portion to it. The other aspect to it is that you might continue to retain and use some other system for specific business needs. For example, you might be running event management outside of Dynamics marketing, but you would still want such scenarios to be handled by Dynamics marketing. What is the philosophy that we use in terms of coexistence? We want to retain the core workflows, the business logic within Dynamics marketing, ensure that all the data that's required to do analytics and computation on return on marketing investment, this kind of data we want to retain within Dynamics marketing, which means that we should be able to ingest data from other systems. Not just that, once campaigns are run from Dynamics marketing, the nurturing data we should be able to feed it off to other systems, be it for analytics, be it for further nurturing or any other integration. Now these are the key pieces where we want to make sure that Dynamics marketing can interwork and coexist in a marketing ecosystem. The pillars that we use, one of them is extensibility. Given what we have, given the entities that we use, these are primarily derived in the terms of marketing context, which is common across different customers and different use cases. But when you actually implement Dynamics marketing for your own business scenarios, you would have a lot of business data and annotation that you would like to incorporate into Dynamics marketing. That is where extensibility comes in. The extensibility comes in the form of user-defined fields, which is for contacts, leads, lead scoring engine, landing pages, all the key entities which are used for running and executing a typical marketing campaign. The second one is on the APIs. Now, these extensions are within the context of entities and attributes, but how do we ingest the data into Dynamics marketing? The way it is done is using SDKs and APIs. So these are basically CRUD APIs, which are for creation and updation of entities. With these APIs, you could potentially take any system, create a thin layer, and push data into Dynamics marketing, and even pull data out of Dynamics Marketing just to invoke certain other system or get data from other systems. The third one is the integration piece, which comes as part of one Microsoft story, where we integrate seamlessly with CRM, and that is enabled by using a data connector which can sync data bidirectionally between CRM and Dynamics Marketing. What does this enable us? This gets us to get the data which already exists on CRM side. It also allows us to see the marketing data from seller perspective. One example of this where it comes in handy is seller collaboration panel, where a seller into the CRM can look at how leads have been generated, what kind of marketing context or communications have gone out to them, and this view is very handy from CRM perspective. The third one is analytics. The amount of rich data that we collect as part of marketing execution, it goes all the way from contacts, their segmentation, the communication that are sent out. If you send out an email, what are the opens, what are the clicks to it, what are the landing pages, what were the web visits that were done after you opened an email. All of this data can be analyzed, sliced and diced for deriving different insights which can feed back into the campaign nurturing loop. Now this is something which has got different connotations for different users, different customers. We want to make sure that we provide all the data and the tool set for you to derive these insights, which is using OData feeds. This allows you to use Power BI, do rich visualizations on the data, derive insights, and feed it back into the Dynamics Marketing campaign journeys. So we are going to cover through each of these segments one by one, and I will try to sprinkle some demos in between so that we can walk through different sections along with what feature set they enable. So first I am going to cover through extensibility. I am going to cover through the contact UDFs primarily, use them as an example to show how we can leverage these data fields for in the different portions of Dynamics Marketing and for different scenarios. So where all do we need this extensibility? Almost all the critical components of marketing execution, like leads, marketing contacts, landing pages, all of them are extensible. You could use and extend using user-defined fields, leverage them in defining each of these entities wherever they are used, either in nurturing campaigns or defining campaigns or in the data set that you get out of it. One of the major changes that we have done in last release is to make the number of custom fields infinite, so you can add as many custom fields do you want. How are they really used in business context? Let's assume that you have got some business system or a data which you want to use it for segmentation of contacts. Now you have two options. You could either think that entire data should be pulled into Dynamics Marketing itself and then use it for slicing and dicing, or you could leverage the key data which is used or which you can pivot on as a user defined field into the contact database. We also support multiple types of data types, as you see in the drop down: text, integer, categories, checkbox. So this allows you to extend in the way which is usable from the UI perspective as well. So if you need a checkbox for some Boolean thing, you could use the checkbox as a UDF field. What is the feature coverage that we give on custom fields? The goal is to support the extensions end to end. It's not just about adding it in one contact entity. We want to make sure that it can carry through the entire journey in terms of the way you create campaigns, the way you execute campaigns, the way you pull data, all the input points or ingestion points for dynamics marketing, or taking the data out from dynamics marketing. You want to make sure that the extensibility is a first class citizen in terms of being able to behave and appear as if it is native or out of the box field. So from end user perspective, you would not see any difference between what is a custom field. So for an administrator, they will go and configure on a site settings that this is a custom field that we need for this contact. But from end user perspective, this is totally seamless. They would see it the way they see other native fields which are built in. I'll just walk you through the different aspects of dynamics marketing where the custom contact fields or other extensibility comes through. So I'll take custom contact field as an example and walk you through the different portions where it comes through. First and foremost is the UI itself. Once you add custom contact field into contact database, you could see it on the UI. So when you create a new contact, you will see this field coming up to be added in. One of the key ways to take data in and out of dynamics marketing is still used by marketers is just using CSV import, plain and simple, especially for test campaigns. This kind of data import and export works. So we support exporting the custom fields onto CSV files as well. So when you export a marketing list, let's assume to feed it off onto some other system, you would get this custom field natively. Similarly, on the SDK, you could manipulate and update custom contact field. And one of the business reasons why we actually add custom contact fields to contact is for slicing and dicing the contacts to create segmentation. And typically, these data fields come from a business scenario or business database. Similarly, we want to use, when we ingest new contacts into the system, and landing page is one of the places where you get new contacts. In the landing pages, we support showing of custom contact fields. So when a new contact comes up on a landing page, they can fill out this custom field. Similarly, on the lead scoring, based on the field that has been populated by a contact during registration, the same field can be used for lead scoring. Again, the email contents, we allow a lot of personalization and customization for email contents. So when an email campaign goes out, you can customize your email contents to ensure they are personalized for that particular recipient. In that perspective, a custom field can be used, and it allows you for greater degree of personalization for the emails that are sent out. Similarly, on OData feed, which is used for analytics, you would see the user-defined fields showing up. On CRM connector, which is used for data interchange between CRM and dynamics marketing, you could map these user-defined fields from dynamics marketing into the CRM so that the data, when it is synced through, the contact data will go across both the systems. With this, I will do a short demo into how we use contact fields on the system. So this is the typical Office portal, that's Microsoft Online portal, where you see all the licensing and all the products that I have on this particular tenant. So I start off with getting into the Dynamics marketing page. So this is our home page where you can see different widgets on the home page. So I start off by adding a new custom contact field on my site company. What it really means is that the field will be available for all the users within the client company or the company that that particular instance is catering to. So on the company properties, you see a set of tabs in there, which allow you for different customizations. Now here I am going to go for custom contact fields, and we are going to add a category vendor type. Let's assume that for every contact we like to have a certain category field vendor type in there. And we need some values in there. So I am setting up some values which will come as a drop down when we use this. So let's assume that I use this as an example. And I set it as a default. So now for this particular organization, Contoso, every time we create a new contact, we'll have this field available. So here I am getting into the UI to create a new contact. So as you see, besides having the standard fields which are out of the box, first name, last name and other things, as we go into details, we also see this new user defined field vendor type which we have created. And as a drop down, you get the two category fields that we have put in there. Now as we move through, so this is about creating a contact.
I have a question. Do you think there's ever going to be a time when you're using the same terminology as you use a Microsoft CRM? Because in CRM it's called an option set, in Microsoft Dynamics Marketing it's called a category. To me it feels a lot easier in CRM to do these things. Do you think that there'll ever be that time when the interfaces will be alike?
Well, in terms of string names that we use, like Dynamics Marketing, the string label itself are customizable, but in terms of entity nomenclature, yes, we do have different entity names in there. And when we do connector session, and there's a session, connector session tomorrow, which will deep dive into CRM and MDM interconnect, you could cover this in that session. But this is basically, we do have a mapping field available, and right now the way it is done is that you map these entity fields across. But they do have a logical mapping in there. So once we have created in the UI using a marketing contact, now we take one of these lists in there and we try to export it out. So now when we export a list in there, we should see the particular vendor type for the contact. I didn't create that contact itself, so it will not show up there. During the execution of a marketing campaign, the second place that we need the custom contact field to be available is while creating a new landing page. So let's assume that I had a campaign where I was sending out an email out, and that had a link to a landing page. Now in the landing page, we would like this data to be collected, the vendor type data field that we just created. So I'm just creating a new landing page and associating with a campaign. And when I get into the form details, I see this vendor type as listed in there. So I'll just go ahead and create one landing page. And as you can see, it's a very simple landing page which I have created. On this form, when a contact enters their details, I would see this custom contact type, and you can see the different categories available in there. So this allows you to collect the data from newly created contacts through the ingestion mechanism that is very common, which is landing page. Similarly, once the marketing campaign has been executed, ultimately we land up in lead creation, and through the campaign execution we have got lead scoring model which allows you to score the leads on different behavioral and demographic attributes. Let's assume that you wanted to give a different scoring points to a contact who came with a vendor type as ISV versus a partner. So what I'm going to do is go back to the lead scoring engine, which is used for scoring of campaigns, and again leverage on this custom contact field just created. So here I'm trying to create a new lead scoring model, and in that I use the contact field that we just created, and it gives me an option to use that particular type. So here if you see, what I have done is basically use the custom contact field created and assign it a value of 30 if your vendor type happens to be ISV. Now this allows you to leverage the custom contact field in lead scoring as well. Similarly, the custom contact fields can be pulled out via the OData reports. When we try to pull out contact list, the marketing list, or for a contact, we would see this user defined field coming up through and through the OData feeds. So with this I move to another extensibility segment, which is about external content. So custom contact fields are one of the mechanisms in which you can get in business data into Dynamics marketing, which does not come out of the box. Another way to leverage this is to use external content. Now I will walk you through one scenario where this is leveraged, how this can be leveraged. We pull in business data into Dynamics marketing first, and this is using a schema or an XML that you put the data in. Now the same data is leveraged back while creating email contents. In this example that I'm walking through, it's a purchase order data of what purchases have been made. Now in the email content, while personalizing this content for a marketing communication, you want to leverage this data by saying that you have a discount offer on this product line and this was the last product that you purchased. Now this kind of personalization makes it very appealing to the recipient to be interested in the marketing communication and go forward to become to have behavioral data which will make them towards a better lead or get more scoring to go towards a lead threshold. So this is a sample example of how the XML could look like for this particular case where I want to take the point of sale data, where I'm saying what was the item you purchased, what was the quantity, what was the unit price, and in this data we can leverage in the email content in some way to personalize. Similar to custom contact fields that can be used in designing of the email, this data could also be leveraged to create email contents. So here this is an example of how this could have been used under the email. Like we allow razor code script to be written in, access the XML data in there, and those data fields can be used in your description or the email contents to personalize the messaging. I'll quickly show you through some of the key screens on Dynamics marketing, which shows how this can be facilitated. So here I'm going into marketing execution. Whoops, didn't happen, sorry. The first portion is defining the external content. Now here if you see, we have got multiple external content types defined, and one of them is the retail receipt that we just showed through. Now these content can be created using SDKs, and once it appears there, you would be able to use this data within your email contents. So here I am getting into the email itself on how this external content can be leveraged in there. Well, in terms of data, when it's get into Dynamics marketing, it is an XML based format, and we use SDK APIs to get the data ingested into Dynamics marketing. So once you create the external content, you have got this association built in. Now when you create an email content, you can leverage it by referring to it. I will just show you through how we can, let me pick up the right message in there. And so this would be an example where I am trying to leverage the external contents. So here you see we are trying to refer to the XML, that schema that we had defined, and you can see the attributes, how they are being referred. So this is how you can use it and seamlessly merge into your contents. This one is basically accessing the contents using the XML definition. So once you know the schema, this is how you can access it. So the schema is only for data interchange when you get into dynamics marketing. After that, for referring, you can just use this hierarchy, XML hierarchy, to refer to it. With this, I move on to the second segment around the connector. The content pulling into dynamics marketing, that is on the SDK layer. So the extra layer that you write, that would have the business logic on when you want to push it into dynamics marketing. So, but the access will be happen in real time when you actually send out the email based on the external data which has already become part of dynamics marketing. So if your question is that you have a third party system as a point of sales, would it actually pull out from the system all the time? Dynamics marketing does not pull the data directly from that system. Is the intermediate layer which you write, that should have the business logic on how frequently you should do this sync. Let's assume that you want to pull this end of close of business every day, midnight. So then this data will get populated to dynamics marketing. But when the emails are sent out, they pull from the data which is already within dynamics marketing, and it has the external content association already made. Mm-hmm.
So let's say that you had a file that had the name, the email address, as well as a unique URL for a particular webinar.
Mm-hmm.
So we would have that particular file made available through external content, right? And then that will show up here so that we can pull that in so that each individual will get their own URL. Is that how you would leverage this? Does that make sense to the use case?
Well, so his question is around that if you have an external webinar system where you're pulling in the key data like URL and you want to use it within the email itself to leverage that data, the way you would implement this is first define a schema which gets you the right attributes and fields that you would like to use. In this case, you probably want the contact email address and URL. So that would be a starting point. The other thing probably you'll need to maintain is also maintain the sanity of this data. So the contact whom you are sending out this email to does actually map to the email address that you are pulling in. So you would also need some sort of equivalent external key which does this mapping. And once you get that, your schema would have a structure which would say, this is my email address, this is my webinar link, and the same data point could be used as embed in the email content. Right, right. And drag and drop is basically you can drag and drop the content placeholders, but the actual thing is basically XML based and you'll have to hand code it. So there's slight nuance on that. Okay. Any more questions on this one? Okay. So the next piece I wanted to, okay. So the next piece I wanted to cover was on CRM integration. I'm going to glaze through this one because there is a deep dive tomorrow, 3:30 p.m. on connector itself, which will take you through entire scenarios and how these mappings are done, everything. But I'm still going to cover through how it is used and where it is useful be. So what are the reasons we want to integrate CRM? One of the important ones is leverage the data which is already existing in CRM. Now CRM has got contact data, it has got leads data, all of these data can be used for nurturing further in your marketing side by running nurturing campaigns. That's one reason. The other one is if your lead creation through marketing campaigns can be pulled back into CRM, you get the opportunity to cross-sell or leverage this data. Like let's assume that you have a lead who is interested in one of the products, like so let's assume Azure is the product they are interested in. Maybe you would like to leverage and cross-sell some other product based on the information that you have got. Maybe in the terms of campaign, you can see through the events that they've attended, and you can see that they are interested in broader portfolio than just one specific product. So these insights help you to actually leverage the data, marketing data on the selling side. Similarly, email marketing to existing contacts, that's one of the most common scenarios where contacts are pre-existing on the CRM side and you want to pull them back into Dynamics marketing and use them. So these are the different scenarios where you want to leverage the data. How do we do this? We have a piece called connector which joins this data together and allows you to sync data across these two systems. It works with both on-prem and online CRM. Even though Dynamics marketing is purely a cloud offering, it works with both of these on-prem and online CRM. In terms of feature set, we have got seller collaboration panel which allows you to collaborate between sales and marketing. It allows you a nice pictorial view of all the marketing campaigns that particular lead has been exposed to and what were the different activities within each of these marketing campaigns. Also, in terms of campaign management, when you execute a campaign, if you've got tasks, like a simple scenario would be that you've got a campaign running as part of email link click and a form submission from the contact, you want a follow-up call to be made to that particular lead generated. Now this, in our campaign terminology, it would be a task which could be assigned to the sales persona, and this task gets synced onto the CRM side. There are different scenarios where this connector sync is used in there. So we covered through different activities. So the example we have got is that we are running a campaign, you got a lead created, as part of lead creation you want a task to be assigned to the sales rep. For the entire journey you would go through, the connector data sync will ensure that this data has a bidirectional sync on both the sides, and the sales team can actually see this data and use it for, leverage it for their opportunity closing. This is one example of a mapping on how the data is synced between CRM and Dynamics marketing. Now as you see, many of these entities are logically the same but with a different mapping name. Now this allows you some flexibility for the core attributes logically which match up there. These are, some of them are predefined, but for many of these, like user defined fields, you have the flexibility to define this mapping. A user defined field which is created on Dynamics marketing side can map onto a user defined field on CRM side. What are some of the enhancements that we did on connector side? Was basically to improve the efficiency and scale, make it a bit more usable in terms of how your setups are done, simplified the setup, and going further we are going to stabilize even further, optimize even further in terms of the setup which is required for doing CRM connector. All of these again will be covered in a deeper session, so I am going to jump through this one. For a reference, this is a session which is a reference to the session tomorrow. The next thing I wanted to cover was through the APIs themselves. What are these APIs used for? If you look on the entire integration scenarios, there are two ways in which we can take out or take in data. One is the APIs itself, which allows you to connect with, interact with systems and hook up data from systems like point of sales or event management systems into Dynamics marketing. The other way is using OData feeds, which allows the data to be reported out. Now the way we recommend the guidance is when you are doing a integration of systems, it is better to do using SDK APIs. When it is purely a data pull where you want to do analytics, it is better to use OData, which are kind of much more optimized for data analytics and pulling data out as reporting. I'll cover through the OData feeds slightly later, but the essence key message here is that for integration with systems where you need data to be pulled into Dynamics marketing, APIs is the way to go. Quick look into the architecture of SDK for Dynamics marketing. So on left hand side you see the applications. This is the thin applications that you would create using the SDK APIs. The client application would invoke or send a request as a request queue. This would get onto a Azure bus, and SDK service from Dynamics marketing pulls those requests in. In terms of, there is a request processor which services those requests and puts it back onto the response queue to be offloaded by the client application. So net, this is an async methodology which allows you to ensure that you can scale up better. And also in terms of queues, we have got distinct queues between SDK and connector. So that allows you to have different load balancing across connector as well as SDK. So this is just a quick flow on how this goes through. What are the entities which are covered as part of SDK APIs? Now if you look through the typical marketing execution, first and foremost is the contacts. You build up the contacts, use the categories, UDF fields to customize it and enrich the contact database. Then you do slice and dice to create segments or marketing list to which you want to target your marketing communications. The next phase is where you run the actual execution, and the output or a goal of a marketing execution is to create leads. So these are some of the key entities in terms of marketing execution that we define. And of course the marketing results, which also needs to be integrated with other systems. So now these are the APIs and SDK events that we cover through. We are enabling more and more such entities on our roadmap. What are the APIs that are typically we provide? The goal is to keep them simple. The expectation is that the business layer that is developed which develops on this layer will have the more complex things where business logic will reside. The operators themselves are around create, update operations. As you can see, most of these entities have the basic CRUD operations. In some cases you have specific to that entity, like for example you have retrieve currencies and for contacts. Now these are special APIs which are done to ensure based on the common usage of paradigms which business applications used to leverage MDM SDKs.
Quick question on that. Is it kind of a one path, or does it support also batch operations? So if you're going to leverage like a lead or a contact and you're sending that through the SDK, does it support multiples so you can kind of collect them all at one time and then send them as a package, or is it one?
Right, so it depends on entities. Like to give an example, like the company, for example, doesn't require a batch operation because the number of companies for an org or a tenant are not very high, the number of companies. But if you look at contact, then the number of contacts is very high, and when you go as a marketing list, you might want to pull it in batch mode. So depending on, and this is just a representative set of APIs we have got. You can read through the entire documentation and which is detailed, covering all the methods and everything. But the net, the answer is it is based on the entity. If there is a business case where you would need them to retrieve in a large scale or large size, we do provide different ways to implement the.
Okay, thank you. Last question on this. I see a lot of this is related to the execution component of the system. Are there any plans to extend this also to the operations piece as well, marketing operations?
Mm-hmm.
do that from external as well.
Yeah, so his question is around like, this basically the entities covered here are towards the campaign management. Would we have coverage on resource management as well? So in terms of long-term roadmap, yes, we do want to move towards exposing more and more entities, including resource management, and this will enable us to integrate with systems which are traditionally on the resource management side, like budgeting and other systems.
Don't you already expose finance KPIs and finance data via the API?
So let me just go through.
As well as some pipe fields and so on.
Yeah, I think right now there's the exposure, but in terms of a third-party system like a financial system, and I think a good use case is right now we provide the plan spend, and we can provide exposure to that plan spend, but if we need to find actuals and bring that into the system, or if we want to integrate with a different digital asset management system, how do we pull data from a third party? And I don't think that that's current.
Yeah, so I think I will cover this portion better in OData feeds. So the way we are enabling these entities is two-step process. Like SDKs are used for bidirectional data in and data out into Dynamics Marketing, while OData are used for reporting and data pull outside of Dynamics Marketing. So OData is the place where we expose entities first, get their entity and attribute structure in place, and then we leverage it on SDKs to ensure that the data can be pulled back into Dynamics Marketing. So to answer your questions, first the entities that you're looking for enablement would show up on OData feeds first so that they can be consumed out of Dynamics Marketing, followed by end-to-end closing the loop with SDK APIs. So this is one sample SDK data model, and this is just for reference. The idea is that typically for most of the entities, the fields and the attributes that you see on the MDM UI itself, you should see something similar on the entity model. That's the idea, because you can expose the data, ingest in and ingest data out based on the same attributes and fields. So I'll go through some of the scenarios where SDKs can actually be leveraged. One of the most common scenarios is in terms of list management. Let's assume that you have a system existing where the marketing contacts are generated due to some business systems which feed this data into in there. Now you want to leverage this back onto Dynamics Marketing to ensure that these contacts can be nurtured and driven into the campaigns. So here, like I'm just walking through in terms of how you would execute it around. Like you would have a application which will create a Azure queue and use the SDK APIs to pull in the contacts in there. What are the operations that it could use? It could use create, update, retrieve, and one of the common use cases is that your other system has got a lot of rich business data which allows you to slice and dice the contact database, but you take the net result output and ingest it as a static list onto Dynamics Marketing to carry on with your marketing execution. So in essence, you are leveraging the segmentation capabilities where they are easiest done, because your rich business data resides outside of Dynamics Marketing, and you will ingest the list as a static list into Dynamics Marketing. And the other thing that you do as part of this process or ingestion of data into Dynamics Marketing, you could do data cleanup as part of this business layer. Like let's assume that you had a point of sale system where the same contact purchased 2 items on that day with using the same email address. Now in your contact process, you could ensure that this filtration is done even before the data is ingested into Dynamics Marketing. Now the APIs provide you rich way to do these kind of operations which are very, very specific to your business scenario. So this is another example of contact reconciliation where the APIs are used as a data cleansing mechanism. For any data or a new contact that you're ingesting into Dynamics Marketing, you first check whether the contact already exists into the system, and if it exists in your system, you enrich the existing data or contact database on Dynamics Marketing rather than creating a new contact. Now, all of these are dependent on your business logic as well as what resides in Dynamics Marketing. But by using these APIs and methods, you can ensure that the data, even before it's ingested into Dynamics Marketing, is clean and ready to go for any sort of marketing campaigns. This is similar kind of usage, but this scenario is more on leads rather than contact. One good example is hard bounce handling. Let's assume that you notice that for a certain lead in your system, you are seeing a lot of campaigns being bounced off because of email address not being reachable. Now, from Dynamics Marketing perspective, when an email address is bouncing, to prevent the deliverability and service, the reputation of our servers, we remove this hard bounce addresses from our contact database. But the fact that it was a business lead still does not go away. In terms of business processes, what you would like to do is continue to extract these leads out of the system and use some offline mechanism to generate other business attributes which can get you the email back and basically make the leads usable further for nurturing. Now, SDKs allow you to do such sort of data cleansing in there and continue further in terms of lead nurturing. This is a set of SDK samples which is available on our documentation help site. If you go to Dynamics Marketing help site, you will see these SDK samples. And later in the demos, I'm just going to use one of those sample demos to do some very basic operations to show how data can be updated and pushed from Dynamics Marketing onto CRM. We'll go through an end-to-end flow where I will leverage the SDKs. Yes, please. Can you please repeat the question?
Can you load the event sessions through the SDK as well?
Event sessions?
Through the SDK, can you load them through?
So right now we do not have event sessions as part of the SDK exposure. We are, actually in terms of roadmap, we are focusing on trying to have SDKs which can allow you a full-fledged event integration with any of event management systems. So that is our goal in terms of roadmap. The next segment I wanted to cover through was around analytics, which is around OData feeds. So OData feeds is the mechanism that we have chosen to expose data from Dynamics Marketing. Now, traditionally we had custom reports which were developed on Dynamics Marketing. The power and flexibility that you get from OData feeds is significantly high in business value for two reasons. One is that you don't need to depend on some IT team to create these reports. You don't need them back help from say service engineering team on Dynamics Marketing side to deploy them on your instance. So this kind of improves the loop. The other thing that you can do is in using Power BI and OData, you can get very rich visualization which allow you to visually understand what's going on, look at the metrics and KPIs, and you can do slice and dice filtering yourself without depending on any complex queries or reports being created. And again, just like SDKs, we continue to expose more and more entities over our roadmap, and as we come towards new business scenarios and the ways in which this data can be used, we continue exposing more fields and attributes from Dynamics Marketing data as OData feeds. So this is a graphical representation of how many entities and we have been covering. So the down you see the Mira release section where we had around 38 major entities being exposed, and now it is up at 87 major entities. And this progress continues onto our roadmap. With every release, we add on more entities and more more attributes to these entities. You can find all of these on our documentation website. As new releases come up, the data, the documentation gets updated with all of these. This is a simple representation on what new entities we have been covering through since our past few releases. So as of fall December 2014 release, we have the entities that I had shown in there. One of the key things that we have added in is on projects and jobs and approvals, and moving forward we will be exposing more and more entities via OData feeds. So along with OData feeds and Power BI, we also get the ability to create very, very rich dashboarding capabilities. Now, how do we use these dashboarding capabilities? The way we see is that typically on Dynamics marketing or any other marketing system, you have personas or roles who are interested in certain set of insights and data. On Power BI, we can have applications and dashboards which are fine-tuned to your users and roles. These dashboards can be embedded as widgets onto main home pages of these particular users. Like for example, if you have got MDM users who have a role type or belong to this persona of a campaign manager, you could create dashboards and embed them as widgets onto their home page. So from end user perspective, every time they log in, they see rich visual dashboard of the data that they would like to see on a continuous basis. So this one is a persona for campaign manager as an example. So the campaign manager defines and manages programs. They execute, they build the construction flows, the workflows, decide on what lead scoring model is going to be, make sure that the different pieces of the campaign and assets get lined up in time, and once the campaigns are run, they want to see the key KPIs and metrics, what campaign has achieved. Now, this is something which campaign manager is interested in. In terms of OData feeds, we expose the entities which are relevant to this kind of persona. This could be marketing contacts, the emails, email performance results, the leads generated, the scores for those leads, the distribution of scores by lead scoring model. So now these are different data set, and as you know, the more data that we expose, the more cluttering of data it can create, unless you slice and dice and show insights in a manner which is consumable by each of these personas. This is where the power of OData feeds and Power BI comes in together. I'm going to walk you through some of these dashboards in a few minutes that will help you understand how rich the visualization can be. A similar persona is of a demand gen manager who is more interested in trying to see how many leads have been generated, what has been the cost of generation of these leads, what is the ROI that we have got from campaign in terms of leads, what are the different threshold and scores for lead that has been created as part of campaign. Another persona is on advertising or creative director. They are much more focused on getting the assets and different resources used for executing a campaign itself. They would be more interested in media planning, the kind of media mix that you are going for, what is the ROI that you are getting for certain media mix. Now these are the different KPIs that they would be interested in. This is a quick glance on different visualization that you can have, and this you see the nice graphs and charts are based off Power BI using the OData feeds that Dynamics Marketing uses. Yes.
MDM at the moment is not a first-class client for Power BI, right? But is that coming in the May release?
So Power BI we will have an application releasing on Power BI in upcoming release. So you would have a Dynamics Marketing application running on PowerBI.com.
That is with Speaker.
Yes, that would be the upcoming release shortly.
So we'll refresh automatically.
Yes. Go ahead.
Are these demos available somewhere, or?
So I'm going to, when I go through the demo of, so one was that you saw earlier was just using the plain vanilla Dynamics marketing. So anybody could actually use Dynamics marketing trial system, a public trial, and try out all these workflows for user defined contact field that I used. They are all on the native flow. In the next example that I am going to run through, I am going to use the same sample applications for SDK that are available on public website. So I'm just using the same set which is available publicly. So the functionality which is going to be an upcoming release, they would become as part of the trial release that comes along with the release. So in essence, when you get to a trial version of the release which has got all of these things, you will have that. As of now, you have got OData feeds, and you can create these Power BI dashboards using Power BI. So now I'm going to take you through one of these dashboards in there. Oops. So I'm logging onto the Power BI site and again I'm using a trial system on Power BI. So you would see whatever is available in here is similar to what you would see. While it loads up, let me just walk you through different visualization in there. So one of the key things is the ability to take all of these data, marketing data, and place it on a geo mapping. For example, for a demand gen manager, it is important for them to see from where the leads are originated, what kind of geographically distribution, and how you can leverage this data is, let's assume that you were running a marketing campaign and you got some leads generated and you plotted the distribution over a map. The insight that it gives you is the geographical distribution, which will allow you to continue further on lead nurturing using physical events. This will let you decide, let's assume that Atlanta had good number of leads coming in there for this particular campaign. Maybe the next event that you want to do, you want to base it out of Atlanta. Now this is the kind of insights which different persona can generate by just using rich visualization. So here I am using, so you see a dashboard up here for using Power BI. Now if you look at this, like first of all it is using the contact location of the contacts and plotting it over a map. So we can see where each of these contacts are located. This allows you some sort of insights into how you want to target your campaigns. Maybe you want to have campaigns run multiple languages depending on the geographical region or distribution. And with each of these widgets, you get quick filtering slice and dice that you can use. For example, this is showing me the split of how many countries are part of my contact database. So let's assume that if I wanted to run a campaign on particular country or geography, I could just check box on these particular set of countries, and you would see the density of contacts which are distributed, which will give you a quick idea of how you should organize your campaigns in terms of running in different languages. Similarly, you have other widgets on lead pipeline, like this is giving you the status of leads who are qualified, who are accepted, and this is for a demand generation manager. They can see different, what kind of distribution they have got for the leads across different grades, what stages they are in, whether they're in prospect stage, nurturing stage, just the first contact. So now these are the kind of insights that you get. Similarly, we have a dashboard on lead generation over time. So it gives you, based on your marketing campaigns that you've been running, it will give you insights into how leads have been generated over time, and you can map it back to different campaigns that you have run during that period. This is another example of lead scores and grades, how they have been distributed across different grades. And here is an example of lead scoring model. Like for each lead scoring model, typically as a part of a campaign, while you refine your campaigns, you also refine your lead scoring model. You want to place right weightage on right behavioral attributes of the contact. Let's assume that you are running a campaign where you want to put some weightage on email opens versus form submission. Now that is something, when you start off with a campaign, you may not have the right numbers, but you start off by saying that emails for open is a positive behavior, but how valuable it is with respect to filling out a landing page and giving your contact details. Now that is something which you can refine using these kind of insights. By looking at the leads that have been generated and the scores that have been generated, you could feed it back onto your lead scoring model and refine this attribute by saying that the opens do not actually turn into, most of the leads that finally qualified did not have too many opens in there. So you could say that instead of putting a weight on opens, you could provide more weightage on clicks. The clicking of links is far more important than just opening of an email. Now these kind of insights come through rich data analytics that you can do using these Power BI dashboards. Any questions on OData feeds or analytics before we move on to the next section? Okay, I will move on. So now I'm going to go through a scenario where I'm going, sorry. So this is the scenario where I have put in a very simple end-to-end campaign where we are going to use SDK to modify some data within Dynamics Marketing, run it through a campaign and see some crossover of data from Dynamics Marketing side to CRM side, and just use a very basic Power BI OData query to pull some data outside of Dynamics Marketing. So we are going to go through, use all of these through in a single thing. Before that, just a view on how all of these things get into the place. So the connector is the piece which links up CRM and Dynamics Marketing. And then you have got, certain applications which are based off SDKs. They use multiple entities that are exposed through SDK APIs to feed data into Dynamics Marketing. You run campaigns, the control, the workflow is basically within Dynamics Marketing. Once the campaigns are run, you get rich set of data. This includes the kind of interactions, lead interactions that have happened, the lead generation, the scoring behavior. All of this data is basically pulled out using OData feeds and visualized using Power BI. Now this is a this is a flow where I've got all the pieces in there and how they interplay with each other. Next, I have a case study which is for one of our internal customers within Microsoft. This is for the marketing team within Microsoft which uses Dynamics Marketing, and their use case was around the HCP integration, which is honoring customer permissions. In terms of compliance norms, we want to ensure that once somebody has made a preference to be unsubscribed or not to be contacted, we honor that preferences. Now, Dynamics Marketing by itself allows you different mechanisms in which you can ensure that these are honored. Any marketing communication that goes out of Dynamics Marketing, it is mandatory to have a link to your subscription center, which basically allows you to unsubscribe. Now, let's assume that as an organization, you had another web page where you wanted everybody to be unsubscribed. Now, this unsubscription that we send is part of an email communication. But let's assume that you wanted to have, in terms of openness, a web page where anybody can come in and unsubscribe from all of your marketing list. Now, these kind of preferences have to be fed back into Dynamics Marketing and ensure that we honor them at all point of time. So this is a scenario where we go through this permission update process. So what it really does is that you have an Azure component which takes in all the data from a different store or a different data store where the contact permissions are stored, which are outside of Dynamics Marketing. You look at those permissions and you have a sync process running which checks back into Dynamics Marketing. For each contact that you have got outside of Dynamics Marketing, you cross-check into Dynamics Marketing if that contact exists and whether you have got permissions enabled for that. Based on the business logic, you might either update a contact from do not contact to OK to contact. This may have happened because you sent out a marketing communication with a landing page in Dynamics Marketing, and when they got to the landing page, they actually enabled by providing their permission and information by saying that this is my name, this is my email address, and it's OK to contact me. Now, this data has to be synced back onto their external database to ensure that the parity is maintained across different marketing communication which can go, or different communication which can go from your organization outside of Dynamics Marketing. Similar use case is where somebody has gone to your web page and said that we do not want to be contacted. Now, this permission has to be reflected back onto Dynamics Marketing. Using an SDK piece, an application which leverages on our SDK, Contact SDK, you can update these permissions into Dynamics Marketing. From business perspective, what it is ensuring is that you are respecting the privacy permissions of your contacts and subscribers, regardless of where it happened, whether it happened through subscription center which exists within Dynamics Marketing, or whether it happened through a portal which exists out of Dynamics Marketing. And now I'm going to do a simple demo using the standard SDK samples which are available as part of our documentation itself, and do a very basic OData pull to see what kind of data we can pull from Dynamics Marketing. So the demo scenario is basically we'll use the SDK to update a contact or company, some entity that we can update, and we will run a campaign through Dynamics Marketing. As leads are created, the leads would get pushed out onto the CRM side using the connector, and finally we will use OData to pull the data out from Dynamics Marketing. So the first one is that I am using Power BI to pull data out of the system that I just shown. So as you see, what we provide is an OData URL to hook up and sign in information, and I've already logged in before, so you can see the entities that are showing up which are being pulled. So now as you see, these are the set of entities which are available within Dynamics Marketing for us as OData feeds. I'm going to use one of the entities. Let me use companies. So now when I pull companies, you can see like all of the fields have been pulled through as part of the OData pull from Power BI. So these are set of all the fields that exist, including custom defined fields that get pulled out. You could remove some of the columns. You could go ahead and do a selection of what all fields that is relevant to your data sheet that you want to create. So I just removed some of these fields in there. So what I'm going to do is pull up one of these so now your Excel sheet is created in there, and let me go back onto Dynamics Marketing to see. So this is the set of companies that I am seeing through. I can take one of these companies and I'm going to use SDK to manipulate this data in there. Let me just pull the data out from different Excel sheet. So this is the SDK samples that are available out of the box. Now as you see, like the different code pieces are in there, like one is on category, one is on contact sample, how to use custom fields. So there are different SDK samples. So I'm going to run through one of these sample code and update the data in there. Just a quick glance onto the code, though I'm not going to dive into details, but in terms of code, when you write a client, is basically you set up an Azure queue to push the data request onto the Azure queue, and then you form the objects, like in this case the company, and you use the APIs, which is the create or update company request, to push the data in as a request on the Azure queue. So here I executed the campaign, and this is a very simple basic sample program which you can see on documentation side as well. So I'm first trying to retrieve the company name. using the GUID. Looks like pulled the wrong one. Let me just do it again from scratch. So I'm just going through the steps of OData query to pull my list of companies in there, and this is the GUID that I was looking for to use it. So GUID is an external reference which is, showing it on the UI, it is not apparent on, these are the internal IDs which are used for SDK APIs to work through. So in this case I am going to pull through one of these GUID in there, which identifies the company name, county seat in there, and this would be visible somewhere here on county seat, and so here you see when the queue has been got in there. Let me power it. So the first message that you see is basically the Azure queue creation. You get some sort of ID or confirmation that yes, the request has been sent out. Then the processing happens, and as you see, based on the ID that had provided, the company name is pulled out, the company name, county seat in there, and you get multiple set of fields that you can see through. And this also has origin of change, which says that this company was actually synced through CRM. That's how it was created. Now what I'm going to do is, let me just show you another thing in there. So while I showed you the company name here, similarly we would have a CRM dashboard where the company maps onto an account, and you would see the same company name in here. Now what I'm going to do is trying to modify this here. Oops. I have to again provide the GUID. It again sends a request and confirms that Azure queue, the request has been sent out. Now it asks me for a new name of the company, and this goes back as a request back. So now this basically, as a part of this request, it confirms back that the company name has been changed, which was earlier named something else as county seat. Now as I go through, you will first, let's check on Dynamics marketing. As you can see, a company has been created up here. And then there is a background sync process which is running between the Dynamics marketing and CRM side. So as the entity changes, the connector would pick up that these changes have happened, and depending on the sync interval, which is configurable, you would see the data being refreshed onto CRM side. So I'm going back onto the CRM side and look if that company has been refreshed in there. Oops, did I click something else? Okay. So this depends on the sync interval of the CRM and Dynamics marketing and MDM sync. So after some time, this data, which I've already confirmed that this is being changed on Dynamics marketing side, would sync back onto the CRM using the connector. So I had already shown Power BI reports in terms of how you can leverage to do a simple query. The same queries can actually be done and visualized in a lot more powerful manner, as you saw on some of the dashboard before on role-based persona. So this kind of covers through the different pieces how you can extend and customize Dynamics marketing as a platform. What are the key ways in which you can interact or interface with different systems which exist within your marketing ecosystem? So these are the key things we have covered. And with that, I would probably open the floor for any more questions. We are probably on time now. Go ahead.
The roadmap you've been talking about, is that actually publicly available somewhere to get a bit of a feel for what is actually coming up?
So basically, the best way to know about the roadmap is when the preview time comes up and trial comes up, is when you can play around on what features are coming up. Some of these are directionally in place, but the actual set of features is basically locked down based on different cost and investments that we put in terms of release. The release cycles we have got are typically we do 2 releases a year, like spring and fall. And this is where you would see major improvements coming in. These are the cycles where you would see. So in terms of platform, our focus is to increase more coverage on OData, because that's where you have analytics and deep analytics capabilities which are coming through Power BI. And then in terms of SDK, our roadmap is basically our integration with common systems that Dynamics marketing would typically integrate with. So these are the 2 focus areas in terms of where we want to leverage as a platform. Yes, that's correct. So these are a couple of sessions that I've listed in there. So we have a deep dive tomorrow on connector, and we have a campaign management deep dive which covers through workflows and how to do campaign management and email marketing later on Thursday. On Thursday, we have another session on overview itself, which gives you brief glimpses on how we have evolved, what are our focus areas, and what's upcoming in the next release. So that session is also handy on roadmap. Please go ahead.
I just had a question around the assets and media side. Is that ever going to be integrated with SharePoint as well, so you can share your assets that could be sitting in SharePoint inside marketing and then use them in your marketing email templates?
Yes, his question is whether assets and management would get integrated with SharePoint. So as of now, I would not comment it on where it is in terms of roadmap. But of course, all of these are in the scenarios that we are evaluating. Depending on cost and complexity which requires to implement these in our roadmap, it will come through. Okay, thank you everybody for joining this session, and I know it's been a long and technical one, so appreciate your patience. Thank you.